Leslie. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good morning, Derek. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for today. I'm really excited for your session. My wife asked me which session do you think is going to be the best? And I was like, I think Leslie's going to be really good, but I honestly
Oh,
have no
damn.
idea what she's about to talk about.
That's a lot of pressure, but I will take it. Well, to sort of jump off of the comment that you made earlier, this content, and I presume all of the content that everybody's going to see today, is really for now and moving forward into the future. It's not all around COVID, but I will say that COVID has certainly accelerated what I want to talk about. And so most of the subject matter I want to speak about today is how consumer values have really changed. I mean, they're always evolving, since decades ago. Every single year, they're always changing based on what's happening in the world, current events, politics even, might get into that a little bit. But I really want to just focus on what's been happening around in the past 5 to 10 years in fashion and how that's actually going to influence how you should be starting your fashion brand or thinking about fashion moving forward. And I'm going to be using my own company, Venim, as sort of an example of how we've been handling that, how we've been reacting to that, and maybe some areas where we also haven't done the best job, and you can learn from our mistakes as well.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome. All right, Leslie, I will hide myself on the video, put myself on mute. I'll let you take it away from here, and I'll just be on this in the sidelines. I'm looking forward to hearing this. Everybody, Leslie Fong.
Thanks. And I should note, I don't have a sexy pitch deck or anything like that. But if anybody wants to start by visiting venim.com, that's VENIM.com, then at least you'll have sort of like visual reference to look at while I'm speaking. But I'll start with who I am. Derek already introduced me as Leslie Fong. I'm the CEO and founder of Venim Denim Jackets. We are a direct-to-consumer premium denim label that specializes in really dope, super fresh, customizable denim jackets. They're made from upcycled designer denim. They are non-gendered, so we developed our own unisex sizing for them, and they're made entirely in California. And our brand aesthetic is very retro-futuristic. There's a lot of nostalgia in our
Show me the
storytelling.
jacket. You're wearing it, right?
I'm wearing one right
Oh
now.
my God, that's
Yes.
so cool.
I probably should have zoomed out a little bit more, but I'm working with very minimal space here. Yeah, our nostalgic brand storytelling is also juxtaposed with a very clean and modern aesthetic that makes it feel more like we're in the year 2085. You know, it's still very fresh. And you can customize a Venim jacket using our custom configuration tool on our website. We're known for these metallic finishes that we apply to our jackets that are very, I guess, like Warhol-esque. They pick up the highs and lows of a jacket, which is essentially its unique fingerprint, and they're very shiny. So I'll talk a little bit about maybe how it all kind of started. The company's actually been around since late 2018, and I founded it on equal parts inspiration, but also frustration. By 2018, I had worked in fashion for a decade, doing everything from buying to merchandising to then brand marketing. But I had so much pent up creative energy and so many ideas and no outlet for them with my previous employers. So that was one big part of it. I also just wanted to work somewhere that genuinely cared about sustainability as a core value and not a marketing initiative, because that aligns with my personal values. So when I got laid off in July of 2018, that was my chance to do something about it. I had been looking for a denim jacket, and I wanted something that was way nicer than Levi's and with a little bit more of like a streetwear edge. But anything higher than Levi's was suddenly off-white. You know, it was Gucci. It jumped from a $60 price point to a $2,500 price point, and there was not much that was in between, and there was definitely nothing sustainable. So one of the first things I did was immediately get my now co-founder, Casey Houchin, involved. She cut her teeth at Levi's for a number of years. She is a textbook denim head. And unlike me, she maintained all of her technical design skills after we both graduated from fashion design school, whereas I went very much down like a marketing end. And then the next thing I did was I tested my idea. This is super important. The first thing that I did was I developed a minimum viable product website, and I ran some fake ads to get email signups. I bought the domain customdenimjacket.com. The business didn't have a name yet or anything like that. And I ran ads to say, do you want to customize a denim jacket? Click here. And really, I just started collecting emails, and emails were an indication of demand. Emails helped me start build the beginning of my email list. It was one of the first ways to really validate that this was something that people actually wanted. A little bit later on, I also circulated a rather long survey to get a feel for if people wanted to customize a denim jacket, how, in what ways. And then even later on, I conducted a couple of focus groups to try and understand more of the how aspect as well. So a lot of research went in before I really pulled the trigger. But once I got enough validation through all of these experiments and started to run out of unemployment benefits, I did pull the trigger on everything else, and I gave it a name, and that's probably what breathed life into the idea. I also love naming things. It comes naturally to me, and I know the value of a 5-letter domain, and I love brand building, and I love the idea of developing a multifaceted brand that's not unlike a person, that people want to befriend and look up to. So something that I've been paying a lot of attention to as a founder of a fashion company, and in light of everything that's been going on in the world lately, is you really need to pay a lot of attention to your customers' values and consumer values as a whole. And that's primarily what I already mentioned I want to talk about today. I think it's pretty obvious that consumer values and mindsets are constantly changing and evolving. But like I mentioned before, 2020 really accelerated the living hell out of this phenomenon. Think about it. We have a down economy. No one is dressing for social events. It's been a very politically turbulent year that's kind of rendered most fashion-related content as either tone deaf or unimportant. And we don't really have great foresight on when we'll get out of any of this. And all of this has really pushed people to reconsider what's important to them and who deserves their likely dwindling expendable income. So when it comes to marketing fashion, hitting on these renewed values is more important than it has ever been in the history of anyone attending this talk. If you're watching this because you're considering starting your own fashion company, you should probably start with your value add and not your product, as unintuitive as that is. Unless you're starting a wearable toilet paper brand. So let's talk about what customers do value in 2020. I've narrowed it down to 5 things. Quick disclaimer here, this isn't necessarily black and white. These are the things that I've observed in doing all of my research, in being my own customer, in having my type of company. This is what has really popped up to me repeatedly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't other factors that people really value in fashion as well. It does depend on your target demographic. But these are like pretty big overarching themes that I think are mostly agreeable, and things that you're definitely going to want to be paying attention to this year and next year and the year beyond that, and for the foreseeable future. So what do fashion customers value? Well, one, right now, essentials, like obviously. And I don't mean like self-proclaimed essentials, like you need this mail order cookie dough. I mean real ones, like nutritious food, water, shelter, and maybe sweatpants from Amazon, right? Next, sustainability. Over the past 5 years, online interest levels for just the phrase sustainable fashion jumped from a score of 6 to 100 in Google Trends. And, funny enough, when did it peak? Early February, March. And in the US, that search term is actually still going up and up and up. And then related to that, minimalism. So guess what happened in January this year? Marie Kondo's Netflix show came out. So I don't necessarily mean minimalism as an aesthetic, but more as a concept. So as a fashion brand, you also need to think about how your products are going to spark joy and how they're going to be one of the better things in the age of fewer better things. Another thing that consumers really value right now is longevity. Again, there's no foresight on when all of this weirdness is going to end. So people are really starting to lean towards things that are going to last, both from a trend perspective and also from a quality perspective. Another huge one, especially this year, is consumers of fashion care about people. Fashion brands that are using their influence and their platforms and even their clothing to really elevate social causes, particularly those that benefit minority groups, are doing really well right now. But there are also many other ways that fashion consumers care about people when making their purchase decisions. They want to know about founders and designers' backstories. They want to know that the people producing these items are being treated well, that they're being paid fairly in safe environments. And in the age of now cancel culture, they're also prepared to boycott an entire brand based off of the actions of its people, or in some cases, just one person. Lastly, people care about perspective. Point of view should really drive your design. Some people might even argue that fashion is nothing but a point of view. So you should use point of view to drive your designs, your messaging, and also which values you choose to address. So if you don't have a clear point of view, you're just plain boring, right? Like, imagine meeting a person that has no opinion about anything whatsoever. Would you want to be friends with them? Like, would you just invite them over to nap together? Probably not. So point of view, and really being not firm on your point of view, it's okay to change that. But when you have one, to just make sure that that's a strong message that really comes across in your brand and your designs and your messaging. Okay, so those are the 5, it might have been sort of 6, overarching values that I think are really important to be paying attention to in fashion right now. And so what I want to talk about next is how Venim has reacted to some, or hopefully all of these things. And maybe this can provide a little bit of inspiration to anyone out there that's working on their own fashion-related e-commerce business. So starting with essentials. Denim jackets are extremely practical and utilitarian, but whether they qualify as truly essential is debatable. So our response to the essentials value is that we're selling face masks like everyone else and their mom right now. But that's about as much as we'd like to do right now, and that's okay. Next is sustainability. So sustainability has fundamentally been part of our brand and our product since day one. But that's not enough. No one can just leave it at that anymore. There's always improvements that can be made around fashion sustainability. I mean, it's a huge topic right now. So what we're doing about it right now is we've just kicked off our pursuit of B Corp certification. And if anyone isn't familiar with what B Corp certification is, it's basically the title given to corporations or companies that meet certain very high standards of corporate social responsibility and eco-friendliness in different aspects of their business. Minimalism. So how we're sparking joy, if you will. For us, for the Venim product, it's time investment and personalization, which are also their own forms of environmental friendliness. Our customers invest time in customizing their jackets, and in doing so, they give it their personal touch, and that's what's adding value. That's what's making that thing not just an object that's hanging in your closet, but something that is much more special, personal, and nostalgic, perhaps, to that person as well. So that's how we're addressing that value. Longevity is a big one. So quality of craftsmanship and focusing on a timeless wardrobe staple is how Venim is creating longevity. Casey and I essentially designed for ourselves because we are our own customers, and we're both obsessed with fine details. So our jackets are really high quality. They're going to last a very long time, and it really helps that we've picked, such a timeless wardrobe staple. And then to address the people and perspective, at the same time, we have introduced something called junk mail, and Derek actually helped us with thinking about how we wanted to approach this product. So what is junk mail? Junk Mail is our brand new subscription product. And the way that it works is every month we collaborate with a different minority artist on a limited edition collectible patch design and a piece of printed artwork. And so far, people really love it. It only launched at the beginning of this month, but it's a really elevated and interactive way for our customers and also the fan bases of these artists that we work with to support artists during a time when you can't really go to galleries or see as much street art. And artists are having a really hard time making money right now because artwork isn't necessarily considered to be one of those core essentials. So what Junk Mail is doing is it's making their artwork more affordable, scalable, and wearable. And some might argue that this is addressing social causes, which goes back to that whole people value add. People do have this really inexplicable obsession with patch collecting too. Some people hoard them like vintage stamps. Some people put them on literally everything, but everyone loves them. And we love the through line that they have with the denim jackets. So Derek hooked us up with a company called Recharge in order to be able to accept subscriptions through our Shopify platform, which is how we sell our products. Our current collab for Junk Mail is also with an artist named Jeremy Novi. He is an LGBTQ artist that's not personally very well known, but everybody seems to recognize his koi fish stencils on the streets of major cities throughout America. Our next collaboration I can't announce yet. All I can say is that it's pretty big and that it benefits a very relevant charity. So here's my shameless plug. Attendees of this event get an exclusive discount on Junk Mail. The code is in the notes, I think, for my particular speaker panel, but just in case, if you use the code FUTURE5, you can get to $5 off your first subscription. That's the $25 per month subscription. And if you use the code FUTURE10, it's $10 off the annual subscription, which also includes hand-signed artwork. So how am I doing on time here? 9:30, great.
At least 10 more minutes.
Okay, cool. So that's my overarching sort of customer values and what Venim is doing about it. Obviously, that's not the full story of the company. So I can talk a little bit about some of the things that the roadblocks that we've hit along the way, some fails that might be relevant to customers right now, in relation or not in relation to sort of the customer value subject matter.
Here,
So,
I have a spot that I'd be interested in starting with. I want to go into
Sure.
failures, but how are you finding the partners and the brands to collaborate on these patches? Because I think that's finding the right influencers to work with and stuff is a really big challenge for a lot of people. I'd love to.
It is a really big challenge, and a huge part of this product is we need to leverage the audience of the partners that we're working with too. It's not going to work otherwise. We have our own existing customer base, but the idea is that it's a way to acquire new customers through their audiences and their following. And seeing as how this is a subscription product, it's obviously digitally native. It's very, you purchase it online, the transaction happens online, all the marketing you receive for it is online. There's not really a lot of ways to do this offline right now. So it's important that the influencers that we work with also have a large digital presence. Honestly, we already know that we want to work with unconventional artists. So rather than going straight for what would otherwise be thought of as like the traditional arts, we're looking for people that are super into street art, that do some sort of maybe like weird sculpture or use a really unusual medium. For example, like tattooing. We're working with musicians as well. So by being a little bit more open-minded with the kinds of artists that we're working with, and also adding a little bit back that filter of only focusing on minority artists, it actually gives us a lot to choose from. And the outreach strategy for that has honestly been strategically targeting around 50 of these artists that we really, really want to work with, even if it feels like a bit of a blue sky ask, and then doing wide outreach. And it's all pretty high touch. It's all just direct emails. Anybody that's trying to have a large presence online is not going to make it hard to get in touch with them. I think a lot of people maybe assume that they'll never be able to find the email of the manager of so-and-so, but it's pretty readily available because a lot of these artists are also struggling to find work right now. So that's our strategy for that. We cast a very wide net, and we get enough responses to drill it down to somebody to participate with us. But we do try to keep it really a wide variety of artists, like not repeat too many of the same types of artists month over month. And I'm really excited about what we have coming up.
Would you ever consider gifting an artist to try and get their attention? Like maybe they're just not responding.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You've got a great product to gift. It's
Yeah.
pretty clear what the gift is going to be.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah. And it's kind of hard to cold gift anybody right now. There has to be some line of communication in order to make sure that the product actually gets to their doorstep. Especially because it's not about sending it to like, you know, their HQ or their manager's office or some sort of official building anymore. That's public information. Everybody's at home. So if you really want that thing to get to them, you might have to go through a PR agency.
So true. I have another question for you really quick. Where did it go? Uh, you mentioned the focusing on a timeless staple of a product, which you have, but other brands focus on fads and trends and sell products based on that. So how do you become maybe a timeless brand? And maybe you're not the right person to ask here, but how do you find that timelessness if you are more of a trendy fashion brand?
Well, fortunately, you know, like any work of art, and I think of fashion as a work of art, there's different components that go into it, right? Like, you know, fabric can have its own trends, whereas categories and shapes and silhouettes in fashion can also have their own trends. So in our case, yes, we have a very timeless wardrobe staple that is the denim jacket. But we're also working off of trends to develop our finishing, stuff like this. So if there's a company that's out there that maybe doesn't have something as tried and true as a denim jacket, you might want to consider working with materials that are a little bit more timeless, especially at a time right now when something's sort of crazy print, like tie-dye is really huge right now, might not even be in style by the time all of us get to be back together at a music festival or something like that. So I think that's one approach that you could take to it. I think the other might be adapt a little bit more. You might need to focus a little bit more on creating, I don't want to say boring wardrobe staples. That's not what I mean when I say timeless, but think about, pieces in your collection that are more utilitarian, especially as people are sitting around at home.
I love it. I think you're spot on. And I think that can be, a minor shift, might feel like a minor shift for some brands that could have like a lasting impact on them. It aligns with creating more value. So it sounded so simple the way you put it, but I think it can be so much more. All right, let's get into the mistakes. I really want to hear the struggles, the failures, and I think for me, at least personally, and when I am doing an event, I don't want to hear about all the easy stuff and how easy it was. You raised a lot of money in crowdfunding, and that was great. But like, tell me about. I mean, after that, you had to go fulfill on demand. Tell me about all the learnings along the way in the business.
Yeah. Well, to go back to sort of the core conversation, I think one of the first things that I don't recommend doing is not starting with value when you first found your company, or starting with like the wrong value. I think in the beginning, the foundation of the Venim brand really started with the denim jacket product, rather than what it means to people. And that made it really hard for people to care in the beginning. I think we really could have been honing our messaging a lot earlier, and therefore attracting early customers that much sooner. If we had really started with the why. I know everybody talks about that, Simon Sinek's like start with why, but it really is true. So when you are considering, or if you are considering starting a company for the first time, or maybe expanding your line in some sort of way, you really got to lead with value. And that's something that we didn't do. Another big, I don't want to call this a fail, but it's something I would have done differently, is not adding my amazing co-founder, Casey, sooner. This was partly logistical. She wasn't quite in a position where she could go full-time at the same time that I went full-time. But there's probably a lot of people out there that are considering being a solo founder or want to start their own fashion brand. And, maybe haven't considered adding a co-founder or just a partner of some sort yet. I'm not sure why or how I ever thought that I would be able to successfully run this company without having a ride or die partner in crime. And so the sooner that you can add a co-founder, somebody to help you, someone to be complementary to your talent set, it's the better. I would do that very quickly. This one's going to be really interesting to anybody that's in fashion production. We definitely made a lot of mistakes by not hand-holding during the first round of production. It takes a lot of time and attention to do this, but if you're developing a collection for the first time, you need to touch every last step of that production process yourself. That's the only way to understand your product, and that's the only way to catch mistakes early on. Even if you got to live out of a Motel 6 for a month to monitor your first production run, it will probably still save you money in the long run, to not make those mistakes and have to retroactively go back and fix them. And it's all the more reason to produce as locally as possible, I guess. So that's a really big one. I know I talked about the importance of having a strong point of view. Maybe something that we're not doing great right now is having too many points of view. People are complex, and we view the Venim brand as a person. So sometimes it comes off as complex, maybe to a fault. I think it's okay to be somewhat complex and ever evolving, but you should probably gain the trust of your customers first. So we're actually working on kind of refining our points of view as we create new content throughout the year. Gosh, what else? I also want to make sure that I'm mindful of the questions that are coming in here.
We've got some back to the advertising, and then there, a couple of people talked about technologies, which I'm typing away and answering myself. But yeah, I mean, maybe you can talk a little bit more about your supply chain and process. I mean, you have people creating denim jackets. It's in Los Angeles, right?
We've actually moved our production up to San Francisco, which is super great. Like, talk about, having production in your own backyard, because we are based here in San Francisco. So yeah, the way that our production process works is a little bit unconventional because we are a customizable product. So we develop what we call our shell jackets in advance with a factory here. And that's essentially our 5 different washes. So we've got, classic black, wash black, light wash, indigo, off-white. Those are all 5 of them. And we have 2 links that people can choose from on our site. And this is to accommodate more body types, and also to accommodate the unisex sort of gender types that I talked about earlier. We have those made in advance, nice and pressed, ready to go. We keep those in our studio here in the Bay Area. And then when customers go to our site to customize a jacket, once that order is placed, that's when we go in and we do the finishing. So we will add the buttons that our customers select through the customizer. We will add whatever finishes they've asked for. Currently, they can choose between 5 different metallic finishes like this one. But we also have what we refer to as our racing stripe. So it's a stripe that can go down the sleeve, and you can insert custom text into that as well. So these are all the different types of customization options that we offer, that we're doing after those shell jackets have been delivered to us. So what that also means, like you mentioned, is that we're doing our own in-house fulfillment. And that's also part of the reason for our price point. Something I should also note about the customizer is it took a lot of research and a lot of thought to really come up with how many options are the right number of options, right? Like, you don't want to paralyze people with too much choice, but you also want to make people feel like they have something that appeals to them when they're personalizing. And so that focus group that I mentioned that we did at the very, very beginning, and those surveys that I circulated, were asking exactly that. If you want to customize a denim jacket, how? And those are important questions to be asking customers regardless of whether you have a customizable product or not. Someone here named Adam said that they're interested in creating a fashion brand, and they have the capital, but they are looking to find someone who can do all the work for them. So I think, Adam, what you're looking for is Oh, you're going to answer that question live?
No,
Okay.
go. You go
Oh,
for it.
got it. A product developer would be the professional title if you're looking to start a fashion brand and you don't want to be part of the production, like you need somebody to manage the production process yourself. Um, Depending on where you're doing your manufacturing, if it's a city of industry, then there's going to be product developers available. But I would really, really do a lot of homework on who you work with. Treat them like you're interviewing them, like they're an employee of yours. You want to get references. You want to see previous work that they've done. You want to have a really, really firm contract with them. And I'm saying all this because I've made this mistake before Casey was able to come on board. I tried working with a product developer. I didn't do any of those things, and it really did not end up working well. It ended up costing the company a lot of money and a lot of time.
And Jonathan just said, give them my name. So I think Jonathan,
Nice.
when that's what I was going to say is, Adam, you're missing a crucial component to a successful business, which is product. And so you've got resources, it sounds like, and maybe you're on the business side, right? Or maybe you're just an investor and you want to invest in a fashion brand. Hey, Venom might be looking for investment. I don't know if you guys are raising capital or not, but
I feel like we always are. Yeah.
yeah. So if you can't find a co-founder that can bring the product side of the business to fruition, you're going to have a really hard time succeeding. Maybe you do have more of a vision for the brand yourself then, and a little bit more execution. You say no knowledge. Sourcing product and figuring it out is really tricky. Another thing, there's a tool called sourcify.com. They'll be speaking at our global event. Nathan Resnick is great. And he'll sit down for a consultation with you and help you source manufacturers in China if that's the route you want to go. So there's some things there that you can do, but it sounds like you want a co-founder. Leslie, you and your co-founder are like the perfect match because you're like market and she's like product, and it's like, so you really cover a lot of everything that a company needs from a team standpoint, from a resources standpoint to succeed. And so, yeah, Adam, without covering product in your business, you either have to become an expert at it yourself, which means that it's going to take longer to succeed. So expect longer time frame and turnaround, which means all that capital that you have right now, it's going to go into making mistakes, learning, fumbling around and not being able to scale for a while. Or you're going to need a co-founder that can figure it out for you. Or if it's not a co-founder, like you said, a trusted product manager who can really do the work well for you. But like co-founder is the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
You guys should be able to say hi. Yeah, okay. Jonathan said it because you should be able to say hi to all panelists and attendees. Untaggable.com. All right. So it looks like we've made a connection here, which is great. One final question, because I know we started a little bit late, so I want to give you one more thing. Mariella asks about growing the audience, customer acquisition. I know this is like, everybody's biggest challenge. I'd love to hear how you're tackling customer acquisition.
Yeah, amen. This is everyone's biggest challenge. And it, including us, I did mention growing that email list. So currently we've got a lot of growth marketing initiatives in place that we're going to get the ball rolling on very soon here. At the beginning of March, we basically kind of went heads down and said, okay, we have this amount of capital. What are we going to do with it when everybody's freaking out about the economy and nobody's really spending at the moment? So we actually focused really internally and worked on updating our website and really elevating that online experience as much as possible. So now that that's complete, we're going back to the growth strategy. But in the meantime, up to this point, email marketing has been our strongest converting channel. And so slowly, but with high quality, growing that email list has been the number one strategy for us. And the way that we started building that was long before Venom ever had a name, long before it was ever even an incorporated business. It's going back to that really straightforward MVP where we bought the domain name customdenimjacket.com, ran ads that said, do you want to customize a jacket? Click here, and started collecting those email addresses. So that was a really big one. A strategy that also is really starting to work right now for us, growing our audience, at least on social media, is strategically partnering with other similar brands, non-competitive brands, to do giveaways for this junk mail product that we've just launched. So we're seeing a lot of good results from those. And as the size of the partnered artists that we work with continue to grow, we anticipate that the results of those types of campaigns are going to help a lot as well. And then I hate to say this because I know that every investor is looking for that magical unicorn that can organically, sell their product. But you're going to have budget set aside for paid advertising. It's just essential if you're going to have a digitally native brand. So be prepared for that. Be prepared for that when you are investing, or rather when you're raising investment. If that's something that's in the cards for you, like start budgeting from that, thinking about what your paid growth strategy is going to be. TikTok is actually circulating a $300 credit for registered businesses right now. And obviously that's like the next new platform. So, see if you're eligible for that credit and try advertising on that platform as well if money is an issue.
Is TikTok working for you?
This credit literally got issued yesterday. But I will say it is so insane to see how just putting something of at least a little bit of value, again, going back to value, and just putting something like that out there, how much traction that gets and how quickly. It's just this very, very fast moving platform. And I think it has a lot of potential for growth.
Yeah, I bet TikTok will be a huge success for you. So I'm looking forward to it. We have more questions, but we're out of time. What I can do, Leslie, we'll keep you as a panelist, and you can answer some of these in chat and in the Q&A section. Would you be interested in sharing your email address in case people have more follow-up questions for you?
Yeah, anybody can email hello, that's HELO @venim.com. And one of us will get back to you. We're not a particularly big team, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you guys have, or maybe even hook you up with any resources that I have if there's a way that I can help you in that way. I'm going to ask for one thing in return. If the audience can go to venim.com and use our custom configuration tool, I love getting feedback on that experience. We're always looking for ways to improve it on both desktop and mobile. So go try and customize a jacket, and if you like the end result, maybe buy that jacket. I don't know, but yeah, go check it out, please, because it's a new build.
I love it. And I think that's a great way to continue getting feedback and iterate. And so if you guys want to check it out, go customize your own jacket. Leslie, thank you so much for joining us. I learned a lot. This was amazing. And I think we got a perfect start to this event, talking about everything from really, especially to me, it's the value and cause marketing side. And we will hear more from Ronnie at Shopping Gives later on in this event about how to incorporate cause marketing in an easy to do way. You talked about doing it at the core essence of the brand, and he gives you like the channel tool to do it, I would say. So we'll get to hear more about that. Thanks again, Leslie.